Welcome back to another episode of A World Gone Mad, Season 2, Episode 65. I'm your host, Jeff Allen Wolfe, and I never know how long each episode will be when I start, but I believe this episode will probably be a little bit shorter than normal. 1, because it was President's Day today. 2, because a lot of people are out protesting against Trump and Musk in the capitals in the United States. So I'm sure a lot of people will not listen to this episode. But there is still news to share with you, so here we go. Congresswoman Claudia Tenney, who represents Western New Yorkers in New York's 24th District, is proposing a bill to make President Donald Trump's birthday a federal holiday. Excuse me for a minute while I vomit. The Establishment Act, which Tenney introduced Friday, would permanently codify June 14th as a federal holiday in honor of both Trump and Flag Day. No, a big hard pass on that one. You've got to be kidding me. With everything we have to take care of in this country, and the biggest thing Congresswoman Claudia Tenney can come up with is honoring President Donald Delusional. Holy crap. Have we jumped the shark? Do all the Wolfpack listeners remember Donald's first term, where everyone was pushing to have Donald put on Mount Rushmore? These MAGA followers are just hypnotized from their leader. Let's kind of wait until the president, in this case Trump, does something important, like once in his lifetime. DOGE seeks access to highly sensitive taxpayer data at the IRS. Elon Musk's Department of Government Efficiency, I'm still going to call it doggy, is seeking access to the Internal Revenue Service's highly sensitive taxpayer data system. A source familiar with the move tells CNN. Now, the IRS, which contains private data on millions of Americans' tax returns, social security numbers, and banking information, is the latest agency to be targeted by DOGE as it seeks to significantly reduce the size of the federal workforce and root out what it characterizes as waste, fraud, and abuse within the government. Now, the IDRS contains some of the most sensitive financial information on American taxpayers. According to the IRS, the system is designed to prevent taxpayers' information from getting into the wrong hands and from unauthorized IRS employees from making changes to taxpayers' data. Authorized employees can access taxpayers' sensitive data only to accomplish a specific and official task. No way. What the hell happened to privacy laws? Why is it quite possible that my and my family and friends' information is going to be handed over to Elon Trump, co-president? And as again I said before, judges, courts, and Republicans, do something. This total turning over of private information is garbage. Do you, the Wolfpack listeners, care about your information being released? I know some of you that I've texted or talked to don't even like to sign up for a free club like the Wolfpack because you don't want to have your email out there. So how do you feel about this, having your financial information, your social security number, and all your private data in the hands of Elon? Not good, I'm assuming. I certainly don't like it. I don't want my financial information, my banking information, my social security number. Are you kidding me? Personally, I would be pissed and incredibly angry if the powers that be, in this case the Republicans and the courts, allow this. So it's time for my request again, which falls on a lot of deaf ears from you, the listeners. But a handful of you do respond. Your comments are requested. Several ways you can get to me. If you've been listening for a while, you know what they are. If you're new, You could text me on the app you're listening onto the podcast if that app has that feature. You could email me at wolfpacklistener@gmail.com. WOLFPACKLISTENER@gmail. You could phone me. It's a voicemail box system. It's not live. No one's picking it up. You can phone 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, 833-399-9653. And I would be shocked to hear from more than one of you taking advantage of this free phone system. You can leave your first name, where you're calling from, or country you're in if you're calling from outside the United States, or emailing. When you leave a comment, if you don't want me to use it on the air, just say so in the recording. And if you're listening on Apple or Spotify, please rate and rank 1 to 5 stars on the episode. All podcasters appreciate when you do that. Leave a comment. That's important. Now, my podcast, according to Apple, not me, my podcast is currently ranked at number 190 out of 200 in the news category, or news commentary category. That's 190. I just cracked the top 200 news commentary podcasts, according to Apple. And that's because of you, the listeners. And that's out of 400,000 plus total different podcasts from all genres. I'm not saying that to brag. I'm proud of it. And again, I repeat, that's with the help from listeners like yourself. Would love to hear from you. If you listen to my podcast on Apple, you could move me up in the rankings even higher. Thank you. And last but not least, I am on Blue Sky. And the way to find me, if you're new there on Blue Sky, you can type in under the search field, Wolf on the Air. All together, no spaces, Wolf, WOLF, on, ON, THEAIR, Wolf on the Air. Give me a shout out on Blue Sky. Right now, the membership on Blue Sky is 32 million members so far. So get your rear end over to Blue Sky. Say bye-bye to Facebook. Every day I'm hearing a lot of problems from admins and other people saying their posts or their accounts are being blocked. Suppressing essential health information. Some officials are frustrated by Trump administration's limits on health agencies. President Trump is suppressing essential health information that public health agencies and providers across the country rely on to do their jobs, said Dr. Robbie Goldstein, commissioner of the Massachusetts Department of Public Health. Trump, is putting the health and well-being of Americans at risk. Think about this. Access to health records, access to important information about the latest health problems in the United States being blocked and denied by Trumpy-dump. Yeah, we care about our citizens, don't we, Donald? Trump offers key concessions to Putin ahead of Ukraine peace talks in Saudi Arabia, with a flurry of conflicting statements in their first forays into Europe. Trump aides also fueled concerns that the U.S. president will embrace just about any deal with Putin, even if it's a bad one for Ukraine, and a continent whose borders are again threatened by Russian expansionism. Suggestions that the U.S. will exclude its European friends from peace talks on Ukraine, despite demanding that Europe provide security guarantees and troops as part of any deal to end the war, also triggered alarm in the capitals on the continent all over Europe, with France calling key leaders to an emergency meeting in Paris today. Barred from U.S.-Russia talks in Ukraine, Europe scrambles for response with this Paris summit. Reeling from shocks delivered by the Trump administration last week, European leaders are holding emergency talks in Paris to plan a response, as U.S. and Russian officials are set to meet in Saudi Arabia to discuss ending the war in Ukraine without Europe, without Ukraine being involved. Ludicrous. Aside from a brief call Monday between French Presidents Emmanuel Macron and his U.S. counterpart Donald Trump, European leaders have been sidelined at the start of a pivotal week for the continent's security. Faced with the prospect of a diminished U.S. footprint in Europe, the European leaders' meeting is expected to center on the potential deployment of European troops to Ukraine to keep the peace after a negotiated settlement. Now, UK Prime Minister Keir Starmer, who called the Paris meeting a one-in-a-generation moment for the continent's national security, wrote in the Daily Telegraph newspaper that he was ready and willing to put British troops on the ground in Ukraine to enforce a peace deal if necessary. Whether other European leaders are willing is not yet clear. Over 3 years, going on the 4th year of war in Ukraine, Europe and the United States had remained remarkably united in their stance towards Russia. But just over 3 weeks into Trump's second presidency, much of that unity has unraveled. There we go, Donald. Isolationist America first. Me first. Like a typical neighborhood in a community where the neighbors individually think about themselves first, not about the neighbors around them, because they think the community is not as important as their own needs. I don't know what the Democratic side of the aisle can do about this. The Republicans don't seem to care, so it's America first. Screw Europe. Screw Ukraine. We're not going to have any footprint in Europe to defend those countries against Putin. Europe is on their own. Donald stated that a while back, remember? Let Putin do whatever the hell he wants to do if the European nations won't pay their fair share of money for security of that region. President Donald Trump is heading to the Supreme Court for the first time in his second term, using an emergency appeal to call on the justices to let him fire the head of a government ethics watchdog agency. The case, Besant versus Dellinger, could eventually help clarify whether Congress may create independent agencies that are protected from the whims of the White House, or whether presidents can fire anyone seen as a potential critic. It arrives at a moment when Trump is attempting to consolidate power within the federal government, summarily dismissing federal officials who might challenge him and attempting to freeze federal funding that Congress has required to be spent. There's no rhyme or reason here. None. It's about Donald being sole arbitrator of everything and anything all at once. No one is right but himself. No one has the power to make decisions but Donald. It's silly. It is dangerous. It is completely irresponsible. More than 60 lawsuits are already pending, including those challenging the president's effort to wipe out birthright citizenship through an executive order and to freeze spending approved by Congress. Meanwhile, multiple lawsuits accuse the administration of violating privacy law and other protections and allegedly allowing affiliates of Elon Musk's Department of Government Efficiency to take control of highly restricted government IT systems. Many of those cases are likely to work their way up to the Supreme Court's emergency docket in the coming weeks. Though Trump named 3 members of the current conservative majority, Gorsuch, Brett Kavanaugh, and Amy Coney Barrett, neither his nominees nor the court more broadly has consistently sided with Trump. Except, of course, the all-important Donald has immunity to anything that he does in office. Oh yeah, that little ruling. Mexico threatens to sue Google over the name change of the Gulf of Mexico on U.S. maps. Mexico will take Google to court if maps shown to U.S.-based users continue to label the Gulf of Mexico as the Gulf of America across the entire body of water. President Claudia Scheinbaum said Monday, arguing that U.S. President Donald Trump's order to rename it only applies to the part of the continental shelf under U.S. control. What Google is doing here is changing the name of the continental shelf of Mexico and Cuba, which has nothing to do with Trump's decree, which applied only to the U.S. continental shelf, Scheinbaum told reporters. We do not agree with this. And the foreign minister has sent a new letter addressing the issue. Scheinbaum said the renaming is incorrect, adding that Trump's decree only changed the name within his own continental shelf, which extends 22 nautical miles from the U.S. coast, not the entire Gulf. Well, there's logic and facts right there from President Scheinbaum of Mexico. Hopefully her lawsuit will be ruled in her favor because she makes complete sense. I'm sure Donald Delusional Boy will argue some such nonsense on why that's not true. You're listening to A World Gone Mad? I'll be back Wednesday night, late, with another episode. I'm your host, Jeff Allen Wolf, sitting in a room, talking to myself. Stay hopeful.